Hello everyone, thank you for being a part of this webinar. I'm really excited to have you all today. My name is Sunita Karyala, and as Anna introduced me, I'm the IMMANA Principal Investigator, and I work at LSHTM as the Senior Lecturer, which is the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and I'm also a core faculty member of the Leverhulme Center for Integrative Research on Agriculture and Health, known as LCERA, and LCERA coordinates various institutes involved in IMMANA as a coordinator. So with that, I would like to proceed to the crux of the presentation. So the main aim of IMMANA is to improve the availability of methods and metrics, robust methods and metrics, so that the scientific evidence that we produce at the interlinkages of agriculture and nutrition is robust and can underpin the investment decisions in terms of nurturing food systems and agriculture to feed the world's population in a way that is both healthy as well as sustainable. Sorry, I will do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't worry. Yeah. So the way we have operationalized this aim is into three objectives mapped to three working streams. The first one is to stimulate the development of innovative methodological approaches or novel metrics in agriculture food systems for improved health and nutrition. The second one is to build a cadre of early career researchers skilled in developing and applying these cutting-edge methods and metrics. And the third one is to facilitate learning and sharing of interdisciplinary research methods, metrics, evidence with research collaborators, but also with users of research. The way we have operationalized these three objectives is into three work streams, as you see on the screen. Regarding the stimulation of development of methods and metrics, this is the reason why we are assembled here today. It is operationalized under IMMANA workstream of IMMANA competitive research grants, and we are in round 2 of this. And the second one of improving the capacity and building early career leaders, emerging leaders in this field, is through postdoctoral fellowships, which we in shorthand call IMMANA fellowships. This is led by Tufts University, and I hope you had all seen the call which was released in November last year, and the deadline for that is Feb 15. So if you haven't, I urge you or your colleagues or someone that might benefit from that to take a look at this as well. And the third one is about sharing, learning, and nurturing a community of interdisciplinary researchers, and that we have launched a global research network on June 3rd, 2015, and we call that the Agriculture, Nutrition and Health Academy. We also hope you had a chance to familiarize yourself with that. If not, we highly encourage you to take a look at that, as we have some exciting developments coming up, including a week-long event called the Agriculture, Nutrition and Health Academy Week in the third week of June this year. So now the partners of IMMANA, as you have seen in the logos in the introductory slide, is LSHTM, which is the lead partner. In addition to leading and coordinating the overall program, we also lead IMMANA grants component. The IMMANA fellowships component is led by Tufts University, which is the Friedman School of Nutrition Science and Policy at Tufts in Boston. And as I already mentioned, Leverhulme Center, LCERA, is the coordinator of all these partners and the program, and SOAS is one of our management committee members as well. So I just would like to talk a little bit about the grants and the scope of these grants and the aim of these grants. So the main aim is to accelerate the development of innovative and interdisciplinary metrics and methods, and filling the knowledge gaps at the interface of agriculture and food systems on one hand, and nutrition and nutrition-related health issues on the other. and we have funding for about 15 to 20 research grants of up to £250,000 over 2 rounds. So this was the round 2, and this will be the final round of IMMANA competitive research grants as well. We thought you might be interested in looking at, it's also on our website, IMMANA website. We have listed all the grants that we have awarded in round 1. We awarded 7 of them. Ike is here to talk about their experience in applying for this grant after Nadia talks. But we thought it would be useful for you to go and have a look at the range and the kinds of things we have funded through round 1. For example, there are 2 studies here. They are in 1 and 3 on women's empowerment related issues and measurement of women's empowerment related issues, something on long value chains, indicators of affordability of nutritious diets led by Tufts University, developing robust metrics and methodologies for measuring livelihoods, development of surveillance system for climate smart agriculture for nutrition, and then also looking at, which Ike will talk about, is the probabilistic causal models for nutrition outcomes of agricultural actions. How do we understand the contribution of various agricultural actions towards nutrition outcomes and are able to quantify them? That's the last one listed here. So, and you can get more details of the scopes of these projects in round 1 on our website as well. Now on round 2, again, we would like to stress, as was the case with round 1, we have no preponderance for any one kind of topic. We have listed the kinds of things we could think of and are of interest based on various discussions with stakeholders, our own understanding of the literature and where it needs to go. But these are, please take them as indicative. But certainly proposals that are outside of these topics are also welcome. Here we have listed a few, basically looking at this, composite indicators of various kinds to understand how agricultural actions can benefit in a variety of ways leading to nutrition outcomes. All of them, but one of the things that all of them need to have is innovation and innovation around them, which Nadia will talk about it, and of course meet the various evaluation criteria. But overall, there is we are open to a set of methods and metrics proposals as well. What we would only like to say is that there is no too much duplication from round 1, which is why we would urge you to take a look at round 1. Something could complement what we have funded in round 1, but not a complete duplication or just a minor extension of the concept. Yeah, and with that, I will hand over it to Nadia.
Thank you. Sunita. My name is Nadia Okranovic, and I am the research funding manager here at the IMMANA project. I support the project mainly in the grant award process, but also grant management, so anything to do with the competitive research grants of the IMMANA program. We thought it would be quite useful to sort of just run through the call document when it comes to eligibility, budget, and the sort of evaluation process or the selection process we will be undertaking in selecting the grants. So just to sort of give further sort of details if necessary. In terms of eligibility for this particular under this particular call, we are looking for partners who have demonstrated ability of conducting research to the international standards of excellence, and this will be demonstrated, as you have probably seen in the concept memo template on the last page. There is a point 1.1 where we asked you to list relevant publications and projects that will help us sort of establish your ability to conduct this type of research. We are looking for researchers and institutions from both developed and low and middle income countries, and we're looking for strong partnerships. While the sort of participation of institutions and researchers from developed and low and middle income countries in the eligibility criteria, it's really encouraged by the project, by the selection panels, and by our steering committee to demonstrate a very strong partnership to an extent possible, given the scope of research, with institutions from various geographical locations. Added value in this respect, in addition to the research that will be undertaken and the outcomes that will be part of the research, is to look at how the project can contribute to enhancing the scientific capacity of the southern partners. You can apply with more than one application, but it's very important to make sure that their applications are not similar. There is a distinct scientific scope between the two, and that there is no overlap. In this round, as in the previous round, the maximum budget allowed is £250,000, and it has to be in pounds. The budget needs to be submitted in pounds. And given the overall IMMANA project timelines, the maximum duration that is allowed under round 2 is 2 years and 24 months. That doesn't mean that we are looking only for projects of 250 lasting 24 months. If you have a shorter project with an impact that can be demonstrated sooner, or a smaller project that needs a longer sort of maturing time, that's all very possible, and encouraged to sort of take into account the specificities of the projects rather than the guidelines of the call. In any case, all applications will be scrutinized for value for money. This slide will basically show you, as you've probably seen in the call documents, what are these sort of what is the indicative list of eligible costs. Important to note that that in this stage you're only giving us a sort of indicative budget per budget line, so there is no need to present very detailed budget information at this stage, but more like sort of indicative scope, financially speaking. But we thought it was very useful for long-term planning of your applications to understand what is accepted and what is not accepted. The overhead costs are set at 15%, and they're non-negotiable. And then we also accept inflation of 3% for salaries only. For some of you who have applied in round 1, you may recall this is also mandatory for round 2, is the actual attendance to the IMMANA conference, and the details about how you budget that is really provided in the call document. So we thought, just to sort of recap on the review process, we're taking a two-step approach in evaluating the concept notes. The first step is the eligibility check, which will be undertaken by the IMMANA team. And then the second step will include the scientific assessment that will be undertaken by the external reviewers. All our work will be overseen by the chair of the independent panel of experts, and our work will be endorsed by the steering committee. All the sort of IMMANA team, the members of the steering committee, who is the chair, independent panel of experts, and other sort of people involved in this process, their names are also available on our website. In terms of eligibility, it's important to highlight that applications need to meet all of these criteria to be taken to the scientific assessment step. So this will be like a very sort of simple yes or no process in which we will scan applications for meeting these particular criteria, which are linked to understanding of the linkages between agriculture, food systems, and nutrition, focusing on new and improved metrics and tools and methodologies, that they demonstrate strong partnerships and added value, and that the references that you provide demonstrate your ability to undertake research at an international standard of excellence. If an application meets all these criteria or has a yes to all 4 questions, it will be taken forward to the scientific evaluation. Very detailed questions. So the evaluation criteria for step 2, or the scientific assessment, include innovation, scientific excellence, development reference, translational value, and collaborative approaches. As Sunita already mentioned, innovation is the key criteria in the evaluation, and it's really important for you to demonstrate this aspect of your proposed research for the application to be scored highly. Each criterion is equally important, so each criteria carries 1 to 5 points, and only those applications that have an overall balanced score between all these 4 criteria will be invited to submit the full proposal. Finally, in this slide, there are timelines that we are hoping to keep and doing our best to keep. So the submission of concept memos is the 15th of February. When soon afterwards we will undertake the selection process, and we hope to invite those applicants who will be submitting a full proposal on the week beginning 28th of March. We do regret that we will not be able to provide detailed response to those who will not be shortlisted, and that this sort of detailed feedback on the applications will only be provided at the full application stage. According to our planning our timelines, the submission of the full proposal would be expected on the 28th of June, and notification of the award early October. In any case, if we manage to shorten the processes, especially in the evaluation process of the full applications, we will do so. But we do expect, in all certainty, that the grants will have the start date on the 1st of November and 24-month duration. More information, of course, about the round 1 grants awarded, about the members of the independent panel of experts, our steering committee, IMMANA team. All this information can be found on our website, which is stated here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nadia and Sunita, for your presentation. So now, before we open the floor to questions, I would like to invite Eike to share his experience of being one of the IMMANA grantees. Over to you, Eike.
Thanks, Anna. Hello, everybody. Yeah, I want to just give you my perspective, basically what it looks like being on the other side of the process. Basically, obviously, we started out in the same position as all of you are in at the moment. And from then on, I mean, hopefully some of you will see it all the way to the end as well, to being funded. But just maybe as an overall summary first, it's been a fairly smooth process from our end. It's been very professionally managed in our impression from the IMMANA side, and especially compared to some of the other proposal processes that we go through, this has been fairly easy to manage one. It may be to some extent because, I mean, what we're doing is very much aligned with IMMANA's mission. I mean, the group I'm working with is basically working on using decision analysis methods from business analysis in development context. Yeah? So the idea is here to really take a look at complex systems, complex decision dilemmas, and try to figure out how to resolve them best, and how to make projections of what the outcomes will be on several dimensions. So in some ways it is almost perfectly aligned, so that certainly made it easy for us. But also from kind of the procedural point of view, it's been a fairly efficient process. I mean, it's certainly a good idea. I mean, the concept note is fairly short, so it doesn't take you too much effort, even if it doesn't work out. It has been very competitive, of course. I mean, I don't know if the funding rates are publicly available, but it's I mean, a fairly small percentage of applicants actually receive funding. But as I said, the effort required isn't particularly high in the beginning, at least in terms of the pages you have to write. It does seem very important to me that the idea is really addresses the core of what IMMANA wants. Otherwise, with the number of applications that actually got rejected, I think the chances are not that great. We found the overall guidelines that were provided quite clear. I mean, you've probably all looked at them, yeah, at least for the concept note phase. We didn't have a big problem addressing all of them. For the concept note, and also for the following stage, it was basically the same impression. Compared to other programs we've been through, we found what pleased me was the lack of kind of legal language you sometimes find in these instructions. It actually seems quite useful. I definitely recommend looking at the FAQ list. That was also helpful because it included a few things that weren't entirely clear from the guidelines, but were pointed out by others. So there is a bit of discussion that's certainly worth checking out. Well, after the concept note phase, I think the timelines were more or less met. I don't entirely remember, but we were asked for a longer proposal, which I think 8 pages, 10 pages, or something of the sort, which we submitted. We eventually got feedback. We asked for some slight revisions, which again we complied with, and finally went well, got approval. It seemed to us like the panel of experts certainly did their homework. They pointed out a few well, a couple of inconsistencies that we resolved in the revision, and ultimately, well, we IMMANA came to the conclusion that they were worth supporting. I mean, from then on afterwards, I wasn't really the one managing it because we have an office that's in charge of these things. But I got and the guy who actually did handle the process is on leave at the moment. But I got some feedback from him, and he's also, compared to other programs we're working with, has been quite impressed with how smooth things were. There's certainly a dedicated team, and you've seen them here. Especially Nadia has been very responsive and very helpful in setting things up. So that I mean, after getting the grant, there weren't a lot of complications from our end. Let's see, what else did I want to say? I think it is, as I said, it is key to really address what IMMANA wants. It certainly does seem important to stress or to respond adequately to the value for money. Well, request for some justification of value for money, because I mean that is of course very strong in, I guess, all UK funding these days. It also happens to be something that we address with our methods, so I think that gave us an advantage. I mean, yeah, overall, I've been impressed with how smooth this process has been going. I've just finished writing another proposal to a different program, and it left me with a very different impression. Really complicated and long proposal even for the first stage. Yeah, so that I was very happy that IMMANA didn't put such a burden on us, because obviously we're all researchers and we want to do our research. We don't want to spend too much time trying to understand complicated instructions and writing long documents that ultimately will go to no end. So the two-stage process was certainly helpful and made things quite easy for us. Yeah, I think that's what I want to share at this point. I would be happy to answer questions if you want to learn anything from somebody who's been through the process already. Otherwise, I'll pass it back to Anna.
Thank you very much, Eike. So now, before we start taking questions, I would like to invite our audience to give us quick feedback on what else or which aspects of what we've discussed so far you would like more clarification on. So I will launch a very simple poll. There's just one question. So you will see a pop-up window on your screen and basically tick all of the answers that apply, and that will be very helpful for us to understand what we should clarify. So I shall do it now. Now you should all see a blue window with a question: which aspects of IMMANA grants would you like more clarification on? And I can see that some of you are already voting. Thank you very much for this. We'll just leave a minute or so for everyone to get a chance to do this. Thank you very much for voting. So I have now noticed that everybody has voted. I've now closed the poll, so you won't get a chance to vote anymore. So what we see here that most of you would like more clarification on two aspects, really. So the main aspect is what research topics are eligible. So we can certainly come back to that during the Q&A. And the second aspect is partnerships. Then there were also some of you who'd like clarification on the selection process, submission documents, and budget, but that's a minority. So the top two are research topics and partnerships. So I'm now showing you all the results of your voting quickly. And now, before we ask specific questions, I would like to give Sunita and Nadia a chance, if they choose to address the research topics and the partnerships question straight away.
This is Sunita, and thank you for listening to us patiently from all parts of the world. And I just want to kind of get back to your primary question on indicative research topics. I'm happy to take any specific questions and examples that you might want to put forward. But what I would like to stress is that we define agriculture and food systems rather broadly, and those are defined in the call itself. So we need, and we also define nutrition and health and what we mean by nutrition, which is undernutrition, overnutrition, micronutrient deficiencies, double burden, and we also define what we mean by health. In this context, it has to be quite aligned with nutrition. Now, any proposal that seeks to understand this interface between agriculture, food systems, and nutrition and nutrition outcomes is well within the context of IMMANA and would be entertained by IMMANA. What we will not be able to entertain is a proposal that doesn't address issues within the intersection of agriculture, food systems, and nutrition. So, for example, you may have something on biodiversity loss, and it might be a really or issues around biodiversity in certain kinds of ecologies, and you want to do some comparative study around biodiversity, for example. That might be a very cutting-edge question in that discipline or in that research community, and you want to develop metrics or a methodology for it. But that would not be then within the scope of IMMANA if really you do not address why biodiversity is important, and you do not demonstrate, if the proposal does not demonstrate that it is actually, the question is actually at the interface of biodiversity and nutrition. Similarly, nutrition issues are also, quite important. But again, suppose I want to talk about diabetes and some fancy technique to take to the field to know how many, to assess or diagnose diabetes. We need to have a context of why that is important in the context of changing food systems and how dietary patterns are changing and how what are the risk factors for diabetes, so on and so forth. So I think this is quite so I hope so as long as the interface is robust, we will be entertaining the proposals. Again, there are again some specific examples we had given here on page 7 of the IMMANA call. Again, I'm happy if you have any specific questions on any of that or any other topic to sort of say whether it is within the scope of IMMANA or not. Again, I would urge you to focus in terms of the topics to keep it methods and metrics focused, right? So for example, an impact evaluation conducting an RCT for something is robust. It's a robust design and it's a good research question, something all of us want to do all the time. If there is no innovation of methods or metrics within that, again, that would not be considered under IMMANA. For example, that might be something that an agriculture nutrition impact evaluation call would entertain, but ours is really about how do you even improve the measurements and methodologies within that context. Hope that helps, but we are here. And Nadia will talk about partnerships.
Thank you, Sunita. I mean, I would be happy to answer specific questions on partnerships, maybe to just emphasize further that because there's no limitations on geographical eligibility, so partners from all over the world can participate in the application process, provided that they accept the terms and conditions under the future grants will be regulated. There is no any sort of, we haven't set in stone any specific partnerships requirement, keeping in mind that the specific research themes and topics will have different requirements. What we're saying basically that because research needs to be focused on the topics in low income and low and middle income countries, developing countries, having partnerships with the institutions in the countries where the research is focused is strongly encouraged, because that helps local sort of implementation of the project, but also future implementation of the project and eventual sort of long-term effects of the research in the particular location. So it's what we're saying basically is you're free to choose your partnership. You're free to decide who your partners are. We encourage you to make sure that your partnership is diverse, interdisciplinary, and takes into account your local partners.
Just would like to clarify, thanks, that's very clear. And just last year we had, of course, several, and that's in FAQs as well, I think, I'm not sure, but questions around is there a requirement of a partner in low and middle income countries? There is no requirement, but if someone is collecting primary data, there is something to do with a lot in a country. Just having having no institute from that country does not really impress a review panel for various reasons. One is the question of why are they not included, how feasible is to conduct that much amount of, say, primary research data collection without a local partner. So, but if it is some large-scale secondary data set and modeling and things like that, maybe in sub-Saharan Africa, then if you don't think that you need a partner in Africa, then that will be entertained too. Basically, you need to be able to defend what you have proposed with those partnerships, and that you're able to do that.
Thank you, Sunita and Nadia. So now I would like to invite specific questions on those two areas. So basically, if you have a question on either research topics or on partnerships, please raise your hand. I don't see any questions typed. Oh, there is one question typed. So maybe while the rest of you are raising your hand or thinking of your questions, I will now read out the question that was typed. The question is, should all research partners come in as full partners in the grant, or can they be subcontracted? And that's a question from Thomas. Sunita or Nadia, would you like to address that?
Yeah. So to answer that question, the LSHTM signs contract with one grant holder, and one grant holder is responsible for the relationship with LSHTM. How you organize the project and the partnership within the project will greatly depend on how your project is structured. So you will have partners, you will have subcontractors. That again depends on how the work will be organized. We expect, for example, that the principal investigator and co-principal investigator are in a partnership, but if there is a specific research that needs to be undertaken which is outside the scope of the partnership, or it's more sort of in the area which is not covered by the expertise within the partnership, then this will be probably undertaken by subcontractors. So in that respect, you have a possibility to use both.
Right. So the takeaway on that is basically we will only contract with one institute, which would be usually the lead institute, but we have had one or two examples where operationally they were the lead institute for various reasons, but the research lead was coming from elsewhere. But regardless, the person, the institution that is holding the contract will of course have to sign with LSHTM and then have relevant contracts with their with everybody else in the team, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. There are no participants raising hands, so I will just pick up another question from the chat. So there is also a question from Tom, was whether there is any preferred partnership or network. I don't know, that's if you want to answer that very quickly, it's probably a one-sentence answer.
One word.
We have no preferences or no pre-selected or preconceived notions of about the partnerships that will be formed as a part of the applications.
So then there is a question coming from Simon, which is whether you could elaborate a bit more on the principle of no duplication of previous Grant 1 funded projects.
So the idea is, so for example, obviously we want to let many flowers bloom and have a portfolio under IMMANA that is not just about two metrics or within the area of just two topics, but to have an innovative representation of the range of linkages and the issues that we can study between food systems and nutrition. And since we know that there are several unanswered questions, we understand that there are needs for metrics and methods to be developed in a number of ways. We would like to see that reflected in the portfolio of grants we give. So as a result of which, again, I mean, we are not dissuading anyone from doing another type of causal modeling, but then you do need to have a strong justification on, you need to be able to defend why, how this is different and compare and contrast, how your kind of maybe non-probabilistic modeling, if there is anything like that, would be different from what EK just is planning to do, and if it is the exact same, if it is the same similar kind of question you're asking. Clearly the topics can be similar, as in the broad bucket of topics, like like improving diagnostics in nutrition, or really understanding the contribution of agricultural outcomes or food system, agriculture or food system interventions or policies to nutrition outcomes. So these are the broad buckets, and there are many different ways in which you can quantify, improve, understand the linkages, and that's what we would like to see. If you have a specific question in mind, I'm happy to take that on, although I'm not in a position to say if that specific question is possible or not, A, because I don't know if I have the subject matter expertise, but B, I cannot do that, but I'm able to just say how you might be able to think about that question.
Okay, we have another question that has just come through the chat, which is, can all the partners, that is the PI and the co-PI, come from LDCs? I presume that means lower or developing countries, but perhaps also you could address the question of whether they can come from the same country or from the same institution.
Well, we don't have any limitations on the geographical eligibility, nor have we set any restrictions on how the partnerships should be formed. Whether PI and co-PI are coming from the same institution whether that's acceptable or welcome indeed will depend largely on your ability to prove that in the application and tell why this is relevant and why this is important, and based on that we will be able to assess the suitability. Again, I mean, we're encouraging wide range of partnerships, and while we are not saying there is anything you cannot do, we are saying that you're encouraged to have as wide partnerships as possible in order to ensure that IMMANA as a project and this particular strand has a wide as possible geographical coverage. Again, this is not to say that if you don't have a good partnership but you have a very interesting proposal that doesn't require partners that you wouldn't be competitive. But these are all very sort of hypothetical discussions. But for us, it's very important that there are strong partnerships within the applications. Yeah.
So I don't see any new questions coming in, so I'd like to take this opportunity to invite Eike to comment on what has been raised so far. So basically, how you and your team have approached the selection of a research topic and how you engaged with the IMMANA guidelines, and perhaps maybe your thoughts on how you put together a partnership.
Sure. Well, I mean, as I said, our research approach in some way was already a perfect fit, so it didn't require a lot of I guess creative thinking at that stage or a lot of twisting of our ideas. I mean, we basically have the ambition, as I mentioned, to take a look at investment decisions, consider multiple impacts or outcomes that people are envisaging, and trying to make decision recommendations based on this in the context of uncertainty and limited information, which basically we always find in developing countries. So in that sense, it was relatively easy to come up with a topic, and I have to say that at the World Agroforestry Center, this is much of our thinking really revolves around this idea of how can we accelerate impact, how can we actually cause a change out there in the world somewhere. And I mean, we have this ambition really, the CGIAR as a whole, of kind of spurring agricultural development all over the world, and of course that includes a lot of thinking about impact pathways and theories of change, and actually how can we actually make a difference. So in that sense, much of what we've done before was quite well aligned already with IMMANA's preferences. So I'm not sure there's been much of a process at that stage, but it certainly does seem very important to keep these things in mind. I mean, I've seen some of the partners, some of the people online are from the CGIAR. And you're very familiar with these concepts already. Others probably as well. And it certainly is important to think about how the impact might get out there. And regarding partnerships, we had also had a few partners lined up already. We have So one of the main technique we're using is Bayesian networks, and we happen to be working already with one of the world leading experts on this topic, actually based in London. So that was also a relatively easy one. We're based in Nairobi in Kenya, so we have a good local network already of outreach partners, people we could approach, people we could invite, experts we can invite. So we're pretty much present already. We are in a way the partnership between LDC, I guess, or a developing country and a developed country. With us, we're in a bit of a special situation though, because we are an international institute based in a developing country. So it is a pretty privileged position also to be in regarding partnerships. It is choosing partners, of course. I think the combination in this particular program has to be between really, ideally, world-leading expert, real hard scientific expertise, and then research partners and outreach partners. I mean, the ones that can actually establish a connection to the ground. I mean, that's how I would think about partnerships. Like those two categories: research partner, uptake partner. Those somehow have to be covered. Anna, does that cover your question?
Yes, thank you very much, Eike. That's very helpful. So let me just invite participants to ask any other question, because we have been focusing so far on the research topics and partnerships, but some of you also indicated you welcome clarification on the selection process, budgets, but obviously we're very happy to answer any other question related to the grants that you might have. So again, you can do it either by raising your hand, the little yellow hand icon, or you can type your question in the chat, as many of you have done so far.
So should we answer any questions on budget? Do they have any specific things?
So I will now give you a few seconds to think through whether you have any specific question, and if there is no specific question, then I'll invite Sunita and Nadia to just elaborate a bit more on that. So it doesn't look like there is anyone waiting with a pressing question on either budget selections or any other aspect. So I wonder, Sunita or Nadia, whether you would like to make some more general remarks on any of those.
Okay, so not necessarily sure what further information would be useful at this stage. At the sort of concept memo stage, we are looking only for an indicative budget, and in the template that we have provided, the table that is included under 1.10 is basically only asking for total amounts per headings for each participating organization and subcontractor. Now, these are not, again, these are indicative budget lines, and it doesn't mean that you will have to translate it or sort of transpose this from a concept note to the full application. But it just gives us an idea that you're already thinking of how advanced you are in thinking about your project, how well your budget will be balanced, and what elements it will you think it can include. Again, as I mentioned already, the 15% overhead is on the overall budget, so it includes all the budget lines of salaries and travels and research updates and other direct costs, and then overhead 15% is applied to the overall budget. So it's not 15% per participating institution, but it's 15% for the overall budget. The sort of we don't expect that you will be spending a lot of money on direct supplies or other direct costs. I mean, it's mainly, we do expect that this will only mainly be related to research. The actual budget itself is not a part of the selection process at this point. It's not an evaluation criteria per se, but it does sort of give you also a tool to sort of plan your project well in advance. I don't know whether I stressed enough in my initial presentation, but the terms and conditions that will be governing the future contracts under this program are non-negotiable. So it does help probably if you consult with your legal departments or contract offices or research offices, whoever is managing these types of processes within your institutions, or whether these terms and conditions are acceptable to you as an organization, because there are certain conditions that are quite normal, let's say, or quite accepted in certain countries, but maybe not in others. So it does, before you put in all this work in doing a concept note and you're successful and you're putting an application, you don't want to end up in a situation where you've went through all this and then terms and conditions are not accepted by your host institution or by the institution hosting the project. It's important also to say that these are non-negotiable because they're based on the terms and conditions we have with the FID. So there is no scope for any of the articles, any of the paragraphs, any of the commas or full stops to be to be changed. So yeah, I mean, I don't know whether
just one more addition. I don't know how widely applicable across countries it is. Depending on who is holding the contract or who you think from your consortium should hold the contract, you might want to check about foreign currency regulations as well to see what the regulations are, if your institute is in fact able to, say, for example, receive money, and if the money is allowed out from that country to your other collaborating institutions in other countries. That's also something that has come up in our earlier rounds, and therefore we are flagging it as something again that that you should look into for sure.
Thank you very much for this. In the meantime, we have a question that has come through the chat that's actually a very relevant one. So Arjunan is asking, can the new project build on existing or old research? So I wonder, Sunita, if you would like to clarify that.
Yes, actually, it depends on what you mean by old research, but this is a 2-year program or a project, the stuff that IMMANA will fund. So we certainly don't expect every grant to go collect massive amounts of data and analyze it, validate with the metrics, so on and so forth, in a span of 2 years and with 250,000 pounds. You know, certainly if you have a lot of data available from and unused in this in the way that to answer the research questions or the scope of IMMANA, you're more than welcome to, say, use the data, build on those partnerships, or build on those surveys, whatever the context is, to write your proposal. In fact, there is a lot of value added in that. All you want to make sure that that work is not duplicated by your earlier work, but that's the only caution there, which I'm sure you wouldn't want to duplicate, and no one would want to duplicate their own earlier work anyway. So yeah, so sure, building on existing partnerships and projects is welcome.
Thank you very much, Sunita. We are right on time and there are no more questions coming through. So the only thing remaining for me to do is to thank our presenters and the participants for such an engaging session. If you still have a question that hasn't been answered, or you think of other questions later on, please feel free to email us. And also, we encourage you to take a look at the frequently asked questions document on our website that builds on our experience from this round and the previous one, and what we've been asked very frequently. we are going to close in a minute or so. Right after we terminate the webinar, you will see another pop-up with a very quick survey, just 2 questions. It will be really, really helpful for us if you could let us know how useful you found it. And if you don't have time now, you will also receive a follow-up email with the same survey. As I mentioned earlier, we're recording this, so if at any point you would like to come back to the presentation, it will be available next week on the IMMANA website. So thank you again for participating. We hope that you do decide to apply, and the best of luck with your application. Thank you very much, and thank you to the presenters.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.